our new quarterly event series for the Career Center, in which we host DePaul alumni and learn more about their career path and job search. So today we have Dwight Klein, who graduated from DePaul with his Bachelor of Science in Human Resource Management, and he's here to talk about how he navigated his job search and answer any questions you may have. Today, I'm joined by my colleagues from the business entrepreneurship and consulting career community. So my name is Emily Comandera. I work with employers. I'm also joined by Kaylin Knoll, who works with career advising. So you might recognize him if you've met with him in an appointment. And Akin will be leading our discussion as a panel moderator today. So please feel free to answer any questions that you would like to ask Dwight in the chat as they kind of come about, or you can always unmute yourself and ask the question directly, whatever your comfort level is. But I will hand it off to Akin to kind of start this event off.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
My name is Akin Ogunbameru. I am a master's student at DePaul Kelstad Graduate School of Business. I'm pursuing a master's in human resources. So I'm a student like you. It's a pleasure to be moderating today's event. Thank you for coming and for joining us. I'll go ahead and introduce our speaker for today, our guest. He's Dwight Klein, SHRM CP. He has a Bachelor of Science in Human Resources Management from DePaul University. He's the Director of Human Resources at Deep Julie Incorporated. Most of Dwight's career has involved leading teams in retail store environment. His approach is focused on people through the coordination of HR functions. After 35 years in the stores, he moved on to a HR role, which allows him to use his experiences to support his organization. He enjoys helping students who are looking to get started in their chosen field, and he likes to field questions. And when I reached out to him via the alumni sharing network, he was one of the 5 people I reached out to that responded, and I was so excited. And he's very open. He's here to relate with us and share his experience and help us be better. So please help me welcome Dwight Klein with a wave or a hands up, whichever you're able to do before we hand over to him.
I'll wave back. So.
Okay, great. So I'll be going straight to the questions. Dwight, would you just like to share with us how you got started in HR?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for taking time to learn a little bit more about me, as well as how maybe I can help your own personal career journey. So my career started in HR really when I decided to move forward as a leader within the world of retail. That's one of the things that I started off with in high school. Is I started off working in a drugstore that maybe all of you are familiar with. It's called Osco Drug, right? So today it's known as Jewel Osco. And what can I say? I really just kind of fell in love with that whole idea of being a leader in an organization like that. I says, I think this is something that I wanted to do. So went away to school for a couple of years at a small college up near Green Bay, Wisconsin, called St. Norbert. So I spent a couple of years up there, and decided that there has to be a better fit for me. So that's when I transferred to DePaul University, and I said, if I'm going to get really serious about leading people, I really think pursuing a degree in human resources is really going to be the way to go. And that formula worked out really well for me. If I can understand the people part, I think I'll be successful in my role as a leader. So I stayed with Jewel Osco for pretty close to 30 years. Started with them in high school, and I became a store director with them in 1994. And I ended up leading some of the busiest stores really in the Chicago area for them for a lot of years. But I also did some extra work. So I did all kinds of recruiting for them. So whether it was for my own store or certainly for future leaders with the organization, including helping to place some, at some point, some DePaul students with Jewel Osco in their management training program. So I spent a lot of time recruiting for them. I also spent time doing training for future leaders. So I facilitated a number of classes for them in training and development. Again, this is in addition to the training initiatives that I implemented also in my own store. So, doing HR work was something that was very natural to me. So one of the initiatives that the company rolled out was implementing a in-store, at that time, it was called a personnel coordinator, but now we would maybe know this as maybe an HR administrator or even an HR generalist in each store. And I was instrumental in helping not only to develop that program, but also recruit candidates and also get them trained for this. Now, this was all while I was maintaining my role as a store director. So I did a lot of HR work in that role as a store director. So companies change, and after 30 years, it was the company was changing, and I said, now's the time for me to change with it. And while I could have stayed with the company, I felt my career was calling me in another direction, and I did two things. I left. I decided to walk away from Jewel Osco after 3 decades, and I signed up for a master's program. As I like to say, at that other Catholic university here in the Chicago area. Up north, shall we call that? Okay, everybody knows who I'm talking about. Loyola University. So I went and got signed up for their master's degree in HR in 2010. And before I knew it, I got a call right after I left Jewel Osco. I got a call from Toys R Us. This was a complete 100% referral. I was not even looking for a job, and this is through my network, and somebody said, "Hey, Dwight, we heard that you have left Jewel Osco." And I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, we got word of that, and we'd like to talk to you." So before I knew it, I had a job with Toys R Us. So, and before, my world changed, because now I was pursuing a master's degree in HR, which is something I really wanted to do. And I had a job at Toys R Us. So. Toys R Us, again, was another opportunity for me to not only utilize my skills as an operations professional, but also make other contributions to the organization, such as recruitment for not only in-store, but also for future leaders for the organization. So I had a great deal of success, because of my past experience recruiting future leaders. So I got a lot of accolades for that, a lot of recognition for that with Toys R Us. But I finished up my degree in HR. So that was an interesting time. Let's just say that. There was about 2 years there where it was nothing but school and work and work and school and school.
Awesome.
And work and work and school. So not the healthiest decision in my life, but I will tell you that when I was done, I accomplished a pretty important goal in my own personal career journey, and that was to pick up a master's degree. So in a few efforts to try to pursue an advanced opportunity with Toys R Us, sometimes these things just don't come to fruition. And unfortunately, that path did not realize for me. So I had to start looking elsewhere. And through typical my networking and through job search and a lot of frustration and a lot of pain, I did something that was really, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, folks, but I did something that's really deemed pretty close to impossible. I made a switch from store manager, retail operations, to director of human resources. And what can I say? It was just the right fit for me. It was just the right time. And that's, so now I work for an organization. It's a not-for-profit. It's called Julie. We are the Call Before You Dig organization. And this is a call center. So there was a lot of skill sets that I have and a lot of knowledge that I have within the field and profession of HR that I was able to bring to my role. And been there now for 5.5 years. And what can I say? It was not just a change in my career, but folks, it was really just a change in my life. So when you're doing something completely different and doing something that you want to do, it makes a world of difference. So
Awesome.
there we go. Okay, so that's my
Thank
story.
you.
Thanks for listening to that for a couple
Yeah,
minutes.
that's an amazing 30-something years, of experience. So tell us about your experience at DePaul. What helped you prepare for your career now, and what was your educational journey like?
So my experience at DePaul was terrific. I felt that there were many opportunities for me to learn, many opportunities for me to connect with people, many opportunities for me to tap into just the incredible knowledge and resources that were available at DePaul. That was something that I was looking for. Sure, I was a commuter student, and I spent a lot of time over on Jackson Street. That's for sure. While working at OSCO as a college student. So, but I also realized that this was the opportunity that I was looking for, and it was an opportunity that was there for me to talk to the professors, consider all the resources that were there, just have conversations about different HR topics and areas that I should consider looking into. And I really wasn't focused too much on what my next career move was going to be, as much as it was about learning, what I should be learning at this time. So, it was to sum it up, I'm in school. It's time for me to learn about academics, okay, and the world and knowledge and concepts of HR. And then, when I'm done, then I can start pursuing.
Awesome.
Decisions.
So, looking back now, what aspects, what would you have loved to take advantage of that you didn't take advantage of while you were in school?
Yes, I would say one of the biggest ones is getting a chance to meet people within my own network, not within my network, but really to expand my network. And what I mean by that is, so for example, let's take some examples that are very prevalent today. For example, like there's Chicago SHRM. So, SHRM is the Society of Human Resources Managers, and they have a chapter here in the Chicago area. And they are very welcoming and opening to students. And getting associated or becoming affiliated with more SHRM chapters. SHRM chapters were around when I was a student. And I would say that that's something that I should have done more of, where I'd say, I just need to get involved with these types of organizations and these SHRM chapters to not only learn more about current issues affecting HR, but also to get a chance to meet people and build my network and get associated with HR professionals at an early age. Most of that for me really didn't start until really I started at Loyola back in 2010. That's really when I started building my HR network. So that would be something that if I could go back, that'd be something I'd work on today. I'm sure, I know DePaul has like a student HR organization that would, I don't know if that was around. I don't even know if that was around when I was a student, but if it was, that would be something that I would have jumped into right away.
Awesome. So, dear fellow students, you have been given a good secret, to networking, being a part of the Chicago SHRM and also the DePaul. The president of the DePaul SHRM is in one of my classes. She's in my recruitment and selection class, Jennifer Salazar. She's an awesome fellow and always discussing with me about membership and the impact of being what being a member would be. All right, Dwight, what other career line would you have told if not HR?
So the question is, if I understand it, is
Yeah.
where else would I have gone if not into HR?
Yeah, what other job function, would you have, taken up, or which ones were you thinking about outside HR if you didn't pick the HR job function?
Yeah, I would say, certainly, operations is something that I also considered.
Okay.
Operations is something that I considered. It's something that I said, if I understand the operations piece as well as the HR piece, I think that's something that would help me be successful.
Okay.
And certainly the other area that I've always had kind of an interest in is economics. So, I guess that's probably, something that I never took very seriously, but it's something that I was always interested in. So I guess my point is that, look, it's having an understanding about business and economics and finance and accounting. Look, I think that has really helped me become a more solid HR professional. Sure, do I understand HR concepts and laws? I do. I have a very good working knowledge of that. Do I understand compensation? I do. Do I understand benefits? Yes. Can I recruit? I can recruit with the best of them. Okay. But what I also have in my tool belt is I have an understanding of business, and I understand how businesses work, and I understand what's important to business, and I understand customer service. So there's a lot of other factors, a lot of other skill sets and knowledge and understanding that I have that I think make me successful in my role as an HR professional.
All right. Thank you. So what is your biggest piece of advice for students that are interested in a career in HR?
So thank you. That's a great question. So there's a number of pieces to this. So the first one I would tell you is just what I mentioned before. It's not just about HR. It's understanding a lot of different pieces when it comes to making yourself a valuable HR professional. So look, it's not all rainbows and unicorns in HR. Okay, you have to understand that it really is, you're dealing with people and you're dealing with people issues. And if you know people, even if you don't know people, people are very complex. And when you have complexities associated with what it is that you're trying to accomplish, which people bring, they don't mean anything by it. It's just the way it is. You need to be able to understand that sometimes things are not always going to be rosy, and things are certainly not going to follow what's in a textbook. It's having that knowledge and having conceptual knowledge of what HR brings is only part of the solution. The other part of the solution is to saying, well, how do I become a practitioner? So now that I understand certain concepts that I maybe walk away from in as you mentioned, Akeem, maybe a recruitment and selection class. Well, now how do I apply that to a real world scenario? So, so one of the skill sets that I certainly have taken a strong affinity with is communication. Look, there's no doubt that I'm sure each of you that are on this Zoom call today have exceptional communication skills. And I will tell you, wherever you're at today, I encourage you to not only understand the importance of having strong communication skills in your role as an HR professional, but to really kind of have that attitude about, I don't want to be complacent with my communication skills. It's something you always want to say, you know what, this is where I'm at today. In 2021, where am I going to be in 2022 or 2023? It's something you always want to continue to build on and continue to take pride and as well as understand the importance of having strong communication skills. So,
Awesome.
okay.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier that things, is not ain't going to be always rosy for HR professionals. And I agree that the last year hasn't been very rosy for HR professionals with the pandemic and, the economic challenges that companies have faced. And so what, in your opinion, are the biggest trends that you're seeing in HR currently that you'd like to share with us?
So, one of the trends that's always relevant is finding the right people. When you're recruiting, right? Maybe you've heard the saying, we just can't find any good people out there. It's hard to find good help. Well, that's a skill set that no matter what is happening out there, if a company is hiring, that's a skill set that you always want to sit there and say, we're always looking for good people, and whether you're hiring or not. So that's a trend that is maybe not a current trend, but a trend that will continue. It always has been, and it always will be. I think there's also a trend out there to say a new emphasis on empathy and understanding that, remember, going back to my comments earlier about the complexity of people, it's, what people are looking for more so than ever today is empathy. And not to say that, an employer or an organization has to give in to whatever it is an employee is looking for, but be in a position to say, look, I understand what you're saying. I'm a resource for you. I can provide some assistance to you. I think that's what we are seeing a greater emphasis on today. So going back to one of the skill sets that I think is super essential in the role of really any leader, but especially HR, is in the area of communication, is that active listening. So not just listening, but active listening. So if you're familiar with active listening, fantastic. You're already ahead of the curve. If you really want to, again, improve your communication skills, YouTube a couple of videos about active listening. This is a skill set that you will benefit from as an HR professional for decades to come. So I think that's a trend, is being empathetic, being a listener, understanding that people's lives are complex, and being flexible enough to be there for them. Because if you as an employer, as representing an employer, if you're known as someone who can find a way to put people first, and not always the bottom line, and not always, the results, but you can say, because if you can do that, that has a trickle effect, because that ultimately leads to, more qualified candidates coming in. It results in more higher productivity. So that would be another one that I would say is a trend that's happening.
Yeah.
I would say the last one, if I may,
is
the last trend I would say is really getting your arms around data. Okay, first of all, the world of HR is a world of surveys, right? So I believe at the end of the Zoom call, there's going to be a survey, right? In HR, we love surveys. We must love them because we're always seem to be filling them out. Okay, so we love surveys, but it's not just about the surveys, it's about the data and understanding the data and how you deal with that data and what you do with that. Right? It's predictive, it's prescriptive, it's descriptive, right? So it's understanding everything that there is to know about data and what you can do with it and how you can have an impact on your organization and your employees.
Thank you. Talking about data and survey, in the last year, employees have voted empathy and active listening as the most valued traits they saw in their leaders, especially from the time that the pandemic started. All right, so please share with us what has changed in your role before and during the pandemic.
I think I think what has changed is we have seen people who have underlying challenges come to the surface. That's what I think has changed the most. Yeah, look, as a result, has the pandemic resulted in unexpected and massive amounts of job losses without question, right? We all see that in the news, online, maybe in our own world. We've seen that, and some folks are managing through the pandemic. Um, Everyone is managing through the pandemic at different levels. But what I'm also seeing is that underlying challenges, and they could be health related, they could be personal related, they could be relationship related, they could be job performance related. There's a number of issues that maybe have been kind of under the radar, or kind of been under the surface. I think the pandemic has kind of revealed some of those challenges at a whole new level. So being that, do I get calls from folks, for example, in about a number of personal and HR issues? I do, of course I do. I'm in HR. That's my job. That's my role. I embrace that. Have I seen a lot more of those calls that I was describing to you earlier? Absolutely. Uh, there are more calls coming in to say, I need help. I need assistance. I'm looking for answers and solutions. And so that's what I would say is one of the effects of the pandemic I've seen that. I think you're on mute, Akin. Akin, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, guys. Sorry. Thank you for the questions that are coming in in the chat. I would soon attend to them. I have just a couple of questions, and then we'll come to the questions in the chat. So, what is your favorite part about being a HR director, and what is the most challenging part?
So my favorite part is I get to work with people. I know that maybe sounds like a cliche. I know it sounds like like something you would maybe read out of a storybook, but that's the reality of it. And look, people are not always easy to deal with. But when you can make a difference in somebody's career, somebody's life, somebody's situation, it's extremely rewarding. It's very rewarding. Whether I do that as an HR professional, in my role as a director of HR, when I can provide support and training resources and development opportunities for someone so they can move their own career forward, and you watch their career blossom. And I saw this a lot in my role as a store director. I've seen this already in the efforts that I put forth as my role as a director of HR. I'm a huge advocate for mentoring. I've helped facilitate mentoring programs. Happy to be a mentor wherever I can for DePaul students. So, those are the most rewarding parts of my role as an HR practitioner. So,
Awesome.
what are some of the challenges? Look, there's some parts to this job, as I mentioned earlier, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. This job is not, this role, this field is not for nice people. It's just not. It's, not that I have to be mean or, or crude. There's no reason for that, but there are times when you have to be assertive. You have to tell people things that maybe they don't want to hear. Look, after a long storied career here, out of many years out of DePaul University, one of the most uncomfortable conversations I ever have is when I have to terminate an employee. That's not easy to do. Or you have to sit down and you have to tell a veteran employee, a seasoned employee, about their poor job performance, or maybe sitting somebody down and talking with them about, I don't want to say trivial matters, but matters related to maybe something about dress code or attendance or you name it, whatever it is, and just being able to say, look, there's no reason to be mean about this, but those are difficult conversations, and you have to just learn how to deal with those and embrace those. But those are tough. Those are tough. Those are never easy. Those never seem to get any easier. That's for sure.
All right. So talking about performance, what do you look for in candidates that join your HR team?
So what I look for, and let me just kind of generalize this for any position that I recruit for, is when I look for candidates, I look for a good fit. So let's talk about that. So you brought up the example of an HR support team member, whatever the position is, right? If it's a HR business partner, HR administrator, HR coordinator, okay, HR generalist. Certainly I'm looking for those skill sets. Okay. And some of those I've talked about already. And it's really measuring and really gauging their abilities to communicate, their abilities to recruit successfully, their abilities to have an understanding of data and how to maybe interpret that. But also, what is their understanding of various HR concepts, such as employment law, or maybe FMLA, or maybe matters related to compensation. Have they processed payroll before? Right? There's a lot to do in HR, so there's a lot to know, and it's if you're going to be a generalist, which is really what I am, and if I'm going to recruit for a position like that, I'm going to gauge questions to understand, what is this person bringing to the table? So what are they bringing to the table? Where are their skill sets lie? And what are their experiences like? Now, the other piece of this is a reality of it is how do they match up to the competition, right? So somebody could be well qualified for the position. They could bring a lot of that, but you know what? I've also got other candidates that could be considered as well, and say, well, how do they match up to them compared to skill sets? Now, the other piece of this is as I mentioned earlier, is the fit, right? So can they fit into the culture? And certainly having those conversations about culture of the organization, and are they going to be someone that could adapt easily to the culture? And are they going to be somebody that can make a contribution to the culture? So now the other piece of this that I always look for, and again, this is true in any candidate, whether I'm hiring, for somebody as a call center operator, or maybe somebody for our accounting team, or or maybe something position higher, is is this a good fit for them? Is this position something that is this right for them in their career journey? Okay, is this something that's from what they've shared with me, to say, this is going to work out for them as well? Because as someone who has interviewed, I don't know, maybe thousands of candidates throughout my career, I will tell you, I look for that, because what I want is what a candidate wants, and that's success. And one of the ways that I feel that you do that is you try to find a good fit. Are they a good fit for the role? Are they a good fit for the culture? And most importantly, is this a good fit for them? And really trying to gauge that, and really try to have those conversations so So, we can make a good choice that's a win-win for both of us.
Awesome. So you talked about having, and earlier you said that, HR helps you to be nice, to people, and then at some point you need to be able to you need to be stern, you need to exert certain behavioral patterns, that might not be nice or might not be welcome.
Mhm.
So what traits and skills would make a HR professional successful?
Okay. So great. That's pretty straightforward question. Um, and I would say there's probably several that come to the top. So I'll say it again, and excuse me, it's the communication piece. That's a big one. The communication piece is really, and it's all aspects of communication. It's the listening, it's the written, it's the oral communication, it's the presentation skills, it's it's being able to um, articulate what it is that the message that you're trying to get across to any particular audience, whether I'm talking to future HR rock stars that are on this call, or whether I'm talking to the board of directors for my respective organization. Knowing how to do that and doing that well.
All right, thank you. So a question from Gina
Yes.
Canzanso. I think you have touched on it. She's asking for what trends will shape HR departments over the next few years. You mentioned finding the right people, empathy, active listening, and data. So, Gina, please let us know if you still need further clarification. Let me move to the next question from Breza. What is a typical work day at HR like? Is it fast paced or slow? Teamwork based or solo work?
So I would say it's really a little bit of the unexpected. There's a little bit of a personal motto that I use in my role to kind of help me get through this, and that my personal motto is HR never sleeps. HR never sleeps. And what do I mean by this? Well, look, there's always something happening in HR, always, good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, so there's you for example, look, there's always opportunities to train. There's always opportunities to develop. There's always opportunities to whether you're hired or not, to start looking for future candidates. There's always opportunities to review benefits programs or compensation. Okay, so those are just some examples of things that can always be going on. The other part of this is, look, you never know who's going to call or who's going to come through your door, when we get back to that type of work environment. And you never know what they're going to bring to the table, what they're going to put in your lap and say, this is what's going on in my world. I need your help. Okay. And I think when we talk about HR, sure, there's a lot of compliance matters, right? So there's issues related to payroll. There's issues related to benefits. There's issues related to compensation. There's issues related to FMLA. Okay, so those are compliance matters. But there's also the other piece of this, and that's the people part of it: the training, the development, the recruitment. And guess what? People are people. And so when we think about the pace of HR, it's sure are there peaks and valleys without question. Some HR departments positions are extremely busy, and there's a lot of time spent on maybe recruiting because you're spending most of your time recruiting because you have a lot of positions to fill. But I think the best way for me to respond to that is just say, look, you just don't know what's going to come through your door, who's going to call, what problem they have. And just being able to say, you know what, I can deal with this, and I can deal with this right now to help you. So,
All right, great. I recall working in an operations role before moving into HR. I discovered that in HR, I was busier than when I was in operations. So I can relate to HR being a role whereby you're always busy. There's always something to do. You have to be thinking about what next you need to do. Then the next question from Maha, I think it's quite straightforward, the response, but let's still just talk about it. Do you recommend taking the SHRM-CP, the SHRM-CP exam, or is it easy to move up in the profession once you get your foot in the door?
Great question. So when my personal recommendation is when you have an opportunity to sit for either the SHRM CP or the PHR, whichever you decide. Okay, I don't know that there's really a difference either way. I would recommend that you move in that direction. Okay, so when the time is right, and I wouldn't try to do it while you're still a student at DePaul. What I would say is, once you're done, then you start prepping for one of those exams.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's better to have it than to not have it. I will tell you that.
All right, thank you. So the next question from Kathleen. I have 10 years of business experience and a master's degree in IO psychology with a concentration in HR. Unfortunately, I had to take 5 years off from the workplace. Any advice on how to handle a career gap?
Sure. First of all, there's nothing wrong with a career gap. That's life. Life sometimes calls us in another direction. To move your career forward to wherever it is you want to go. I'm going to presume you're HR. This is where you start tapping into your network, and you also have to start finding ways to build your network. And how do you do that? Well, certainly start reaching back out to some of the working professionals and your contacts from previous work experiences, and just reconnecting with them and just saying, hey, I'm getting back in the workforce and I'm looking to move my career forward. And what I find is, and again, I stress this to as a mentor is to say, look, what's not appropriate is to say, can you get me a job? That is not appropriate. However, along those lines, what is appropriate is to say, hey, by the way, do you know anybody that's hiring? Would you know anybody that's hiring? Look, I'm looking to get back in to the workforce. I'm looking for, I'm targeting a specific area, human resources, for example. Would you happen to know anybody that's hiring? Okay, so that would be step number one. Number two is getting associated with different SHRM organizations, right? Whether it's a local SHRM chapter, Chicago SHRM. In the city of Chicago, there's also an excellent group called HRMAC. That's Human Resources Managers Association of Chicago. That's another excellent group to get affiliated with and get associated with. And it's not just being part of that group, it's an opportunity to connect with with other HR professionals out there that, that they know of positions and they know of opportunities. And guess what? There's an organization out there right now looking for somebody like you. I can guarantee you that. But it's just working through and developing a network so that you can find that next, fantastic opportunity.
Those are great strategies and tips of networking. So Gina's question, you have touched on it earlier. She's asking what your least favorite part is. You mentioned that it's about having to let people go as a result of performance, or or not fitting into the culture after a while in the organization. So I'll move on to Meredith's question. What advice would you give to someone who has graduated with a BA in psychology and is considering a path in HR? What is most attractive about someone with a background in psychology to a hiring manager? And what specific types of roles within HR could someone with such a background use?
Okay. So I'm going to give you my favorite HR response is it depends. So get used to maybe learning that phrase and knowing that, look, not every situation is cut and dry. So the answer is it depends. It depends on what other skill sets you potentially bring, what other experiences you have. So it sounds like, based on what's been shared to me here, is maybe you're seeking an introductory role into HR. Certainly an HR coordinator, and that would something that would be perfectly appropriate. Something maybe along the lines of an HR administrator. That would be something where it may involve some HR functions, but it also could involve maybe some administrative functions that are really not related to HR, but at least you're getting some experience. And, one of the realities about HR is, sure, it's very experience based, but it's also credentials based. So that's why I'm a big fan of certification, because what that shows is saying, here's someone who's committed to the profession. This is somebody who said, I'm not only am I knowledgeable about it, but I'm committed about moving forward with this. So, looking for an introductory role, I think that's probably the best fit. Based, again, it depends, but I mean, that would be, for me. Let me use my own example. So, look, I never had a HR position in my life. I never had that. I was a store manager, and what I was doing is I was applying for the wrong jobs. I'll tell you that straight out. I was applying for HR generalist jobs, and it turns out that those were positions that were not a good fit for me. Those positions were not the right opportunity, and I kept asking myself, why are employers not even considering me for those positions? It wasn't the right fit. So what I had to start doing is I said, I really need to start looking at HR manager and really HR director roles. And once I started doing that, that was a better match for me, because based on my experience and based on my situation and credentials, that's something that was a better fit for me. So,
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
So Jaina has asked another question. How do you stay updated on current news in HR?
That's something you have to do. That's something that I do on a regular basis, probably almost a daily basis. So there's a couple ways I recommend you doing this. So I belong to SHRM, right? So SHRM, the Society of Human Resources Managers, they have, for example, if you're a student, which I presume all of you are, they have a student discount that's available to you. So just staying with SHRM, and then they send out a newsletter pretty much every day about current issues, current matters, current topics. So that's one. I also subscribe to legal newsletters. Okay, so these are employment law newsletters. Most of these come out once a week. Some come out once a month. But these are related to current issues pertaining to employment law. And some of these are on the state level. Some of them are on the federal level. So staying involved with that. I also, we've become a world of Zoom and webinars. So that's something that, if there's an opportunity for me to keep abreast on a particular topic. So as you mentioned earlier, I can't tell you how many webinars I watched related to, to how to deal with employment matters in the workplace related to the pandemic. That's something that you just have to make time for. The other part of this, and I'll just finish up with this, is again, just affiliating yourself with, getting associated with some sort of SHRM chapter, whether it's Chicago SHRM or a local chapter close to where you reside. Please, I really encourage you to do that. They're going to have student discounts. Yeah, it's a little bit of money, but it's worth your time. It's worth your effort to get involved, get connected, because they have presentations on current matters related to HR, and we could go through the whole list of them. But those are. It's really a blended approach for me to do that, and talking with my colleagues. That's another good one too. So HR people love to talk. So.
Interesting. So the last question in the chat here is from Breza. She's asking, how do you balance work life and personal life? Were there any overlaps? I imagine that there would be as a HR director. Are you flexible? Are your hours flexible? And are you always on the call?
HR never sleeps. That's for sure. So, my organization is 24/7, 365. 24/7, 365. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm on the phone 24/7, 365 or checking my email. And I guess the best approach that I would encourage all of you to say is what's important to you in your life, right? It's sure, there are times when, I gotta burn the HR candle here. I've got things to do. I've got the people that need me. I've got to do those things. Okay. And there's other times when, there are other things that are important to me in my life, and only you can decide what that is. And finding, again, I keep going back to this, but finding that fit where you can say, I work for an employer, or I have a position that helps me balance not only my career ambitions, but also my personal ambitions, and whatever they are, there's no reason for to not be able to do the things that you want to do. So it takes a balance. It definitely takes a lot of extra effort. Where you're at today with school, I'm imagining that many of you probably have work commitments. That's how it was when I was a student there. I'm sure much of that is true here today. And it does require some sacrifices, but again, it's about getting, not so much getting to where you want to be, but being able to do the things and accomplish the things that you want in life. So that's what I would say. And when you get to be a director of HR, there's times that I get pulled into it. That's fine, but most of the time, it's I'm still able to do all the things that I want to do in my life. So,
thank you. So, folks, HR is not easy. It's a place whereby we have to ask ourselves questions. Why am I in HR? Why am I interested in HR? Is this a fit for me, and all of that, so that down the road we will not have any ill feeling when it comes to the call for duty. So I'll be handing over back to Kaylin to take over from here. Thank you, Dwight.
Yeah, can we give like a big thank you both to Dwight and then also to Akin. I think both of them did amazing jobs. We got some really super useful information. It's so glad, even from my perspective, to be able to hear some of the things that you said today, Dwight. Super informative, and glad to be able to reiterate that back. As we wrap up today, I'm going to launch one of those polls that Dwight had mentioned, kind of talking about today's experience. We would love kind of any feedback that you have as we wrap up, so that we can make sure to continue to put on these awesome events for the future. But really appreciate everybody coming today and being able to work with us. Both Akin and I do individual appointments. So if you have more questions around kind of HR or searching in HR, we're happy to sit down and have conversations with you. And Dwight is part of our Ask network, which is our alumni sharing knowledge network, in which you can sit down and have individual conversations with alumni. So any of us are happy to be able to be a resource for you as you continue your career journey. But thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dwight. And thank you, Kaylin. Thank you, Akin. This was a great event. We really appreciate your time. And thank you all of you for coming. We really appreciate your attendance and your great questions in the chat. It was great, learned a lot.